Hey everyone, before we dive in, let me ask you something that'll keep you up tonight. What would you do if you discovered that something passing through our solar system right now is breaking every single law of physics we know? And what if I told you that in just a few weeks, we're about to get definitive proof one way or another? Because, folks, we're not talking science fiction here. We're talking about Atlas. And if you think you've heard strange things about this object before, buckle up, because what happened on October 29th has left even Harvard scientists speechless. This isn't clickbait. This is potentially the most important astronomical event in human history, and most people have no idea it's even happening. So here's what went down. October 29th. Atlas passed perihelion, its closest point to the Sun. The ALMA telescope detected something that shouldn't be possible. Atlas was 4 arcseconds off from where it was supposed to be. In astronomical terms, this is massive. This deviation indicates non-gravitational acceleration, meaning some force other than the Sun's gravity is acting on this object. And before you say it's just outgassing like a normal comet, hold that thought because we're about to blow that explanation out of the water. The Solar Observatory's stereo, SOHO, and GO-19 captured something that has never been documented in the history of comet observation. Atlas brightened in a way that defies everything we know, and here's the kicker. It became bluer than the Sun itself. Let me repeat that because it's insane. An object in space became bluer than our actual star. This is the 9th official anomaly of Atlas. But we're potentially about to witness a 10th that could change everything we thought we knew about the universe. Here's where it gets absolutely wild. If Atlas were a natural comet experiencing this kind of non-gravitational acceleration, the physics are clear. It would have had to eject at least 15% of its total mass. We're talking about more than 5 billion tons of material that should be surrounding this object in a massive debris cloud. 5 billion tons, folks. That's not something you can just miss. And this is where December 19th becomes the most important date in recent astronomical history. That's when Atlas makes its closest approach to Earth, close enough that our telescopes will have unprecedented resolution and sensitivity. If that debris cloud exists, we will find it. There's no question about that. But if it doesn't exist, if we scan the space around Atlas and find nothing, then we're looking at something that accelerates without losing mass. And that is physically impossible for any natural comet we've ever studied. Think about what that means for a second. An object that can change its trajectory without expelling material. That's not comet behavior. That's something else entirely. Professor Avi Loeb from Harvard, one of the most respected astrophysicists in the world, has been following this closely, and even he's impressed by what we're seeing. He calculated that the Sun's gravitational lensing effect on light from Atlas creates a deflection of 0.27 arcseconds. It's small, but measurable, and it gives us another tool to study the true nature of this object. Now let me take you through the complete story of Atlas, because this isn't just another space rock. This could genuinely be one of the most significant discoveries in human history. Atlas is the 3rd confirmed interstellar object we've ever detected. The first was Oumuamua back in 2017, which caused its own controversy. The second was Comet Borisov in 2019, which was pretty standard as comets go. But Atlas? Atlas is nothing like either of them. Let's start with size and speed. Atlas is 1,000,000 times more massive than Oumuamua and 1,000 times larger than Borisov. To put this in perspective, if Oumuamua were the size of a ping-pong ball, Atlas would be a multi-story building. Already that's strange because interstellar objects this large are incredibly rare. But here's where it gets statistically insane. Atlas is also moving faster than both of the other interstellar objects. In nature, larger objects typically move slower due to energy conservation. It's basic physics. But Atlas breaks this rule. The probability of an object being both this large and this fast? Less than 0.1%. It's like finding someone who's simultaneously the tallest and fastest person on the planet. But the size and speed are just the beginning. Let me walk you through the 9 confirmed anomalies that make Atlas unlike anything in our astronomical databases. Each one by itself would be interesting. Together, they paint a picture that's either revolutionary or terrifying, depending on how you look at it. Anomaly number 1 is the trajectory. Atlas is traveling in a retrograde orbit, meaning it's moving opposite to the direction of planetary motion in our solar system. Retrograde orbits aren't that unusual for interstellar visitors. But here's the problem. This retrograde trajectory is aligned within just 5 degrees of the solar system's ecliptic plane. For an interstellar object coming from random directions in space to hit that narrow plane while also moving backwards, the probability is only 0.2%. It's like someone shooting a basketball backwards and having it swish perfectly through the center of the hoop. Anomaly number 2 is what I call the solar jet, and it's unprecedented in comet science. Between July and August of 2025, Atlas developed a jet of material pointing directly toward the sun. Let me explain why this is bonkers. Comets have tails that always point away from the sun. Always. This isn't opinion, it's physics. When a comet approaches the sun, solar radiation heats the ice, causing it to sublimate and release gas and dust. The solar wind then pushes this material away from the sun, creating the iconic tail we all know. But Atlas did the opposite. It created an anti-tail pointing toward the sun. This defies our basic understanding of how icy objects behave in space. Anomaly number 3 ties back to what I mentioned earlier about size and speed. The statistical improbability of Atlas being both gigantic and fast is less than 0.1%. In any natural population of objects, you'd expect an inverse relationship. Fast objects should be small. Large objects should be slow. Atlas violates this pattern completely. Anomaly number 4 is perhaps the most mind-blowing from a statistical perspective. The timing of Atlas's arrival is perfect. Atlas arrived at precisely the right moment to pass within tens of millions of kilometers of Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. That alone would be remarkable. But simultaneously, its perihelion passage occurred when it was positioned to be completely invisible from Earth's perspective. We couldn't observe it at its most critical moment. The probability of all these factors aligning naturally? 0.005%. That's 5 in 100,000. It's like throwing 3 darts simultaneously and hitting 3 bullseyes while a fourth person turns around at the exact right second. Anomaly number 5 involves the metallic composition of Atlas, spectroscopic. Analysis revealed something shocking. Atlas has a nickel-to-iron ratio that's completely different from any known natural comet. Even stranger, this ratio resembles the metallic alloys we produce industrially here on Earth. Natural comets have very consistent metal proportions that reflect the primordial composition of whatever stellar system they formed in. Atlas's composition doesn't match any known natural pattern. The probability of this occurring naturally is less than 1%. Anomaly number 6 is the lack of water, and this one challenges our very definition of what a comet is. Comets are essentially dirty snowballs. Water ice makes up the vast majority of their mass, typically 80 to 90%. But Atlas contains only 4% water by mass. It's like finding an iceberg that's 96% rock. This is so unusual that some scientists question whether we should even call Atlas a comet at all. Anomaly number 7 involves something called polarization. When light bounces off an object in space, the way that light is polarized tells us about the surface material and structure. Atlas shows an extreme negative polarization pattern that has never been observed in any other comet, including Borisov, which we know for certain is natural. The probability of this occurring with known natural materials is less than 1%. It's as if Atlas is twisting light in a way that shouldn't be possible with rock and ice. Anomaly number 8 connects Atlas to one of the greatest mysteries in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Atlas came from a direction in space that's within 9 degrees of the origin point of the famous WOW signal. For those unfamiliar, the WOW signal was a powerful radio transmission detected in 1977 that remains unexplained to this day. Now, 9 degrees might sound like a large angle, but in the context of the entire sky and interstellar distances, it's remarkably close. The probability of this alignment being coincidental is about 0.6%. Anomaly number 9 is the most recent discovery. Near perihelion, Atlas brightened dramatically, more than any known comet. But it wasn't just the brightness. The color changed. Atlas became bluer than the sun itself. For an object to appear bluer than the sun means it's either hotter or reflecting light in a very unusual way. Neither explanation fits well with normal cometary composition. Ice and rock don't do this, and now we arrive at the potential 10th anomaly. The non-gravitational acceleration detected by ALMA means Atlas changed its trajectory without gravity being the cause. For a natural comet, this requires mass ejection, more than 5 billion tons based on the calculations. When you eject that much material, it forms a cloud around the object that should be easily detectable. In December, when Atlas passes closest to Earth, our telescopes will be pointed right at it with maximum sensitivity. If the debris cloud is there, we'll see it. But if it's not there, we're looking at something that violates fundamental physics. The scientific community is genuinely divided on this. Professor Avi Loeb is advocating that we seriously consider non-natural explanations. And before anyone dismisses this as fringe science, understand that Loeb isn't some conspiracy theorist. He's one of the most published and cited astrophysicists in the world. He's saying that when you have this many anomalies, this many statistical improbabilities all occurring in the same object, you have to consider hypotheses you might normally reject. That's how science works. If Atlas turns out to be artificial or technological in any way, the implications are staggering. We're not just talking about the existence of extraterrestrial life. We're talking about a civilization capable of interstellar travel and engineering on scales we can barely imagine. But even if the final explanation is completely natural, even if Atlas is just some exotic type of object we've never encountered before, this would still revolutionize our understanding of the universe. The next few weeks are absolutely critical. December's observations will provide definitive answers to several key questions. The debris cloud question will be resolved one way or another. We'll get better spectroscopic data during the close approach. Each piece of data either narrows down the natural explanations or pushes us further into uncharted territory. What's remarkable is how fast this is all happening. We don't need to wait years or decades for answers. December 19th is just weeks away. By early 2026, we'll have enough data to either explain Atlas conventionally or admit we're facing something completely unprecedented. We have an object that's statistically improbable in size and speed, moving on an impossibly precise trajectory, showing material composition that doesn't match natural patterns, lacking water when it should be mostly ice, polarizing light in unknown ways, coming from the direction of our best extraterrestrial signal candidate, brightening beyond any comet ever seen, developing jets that point the wrong direction, accelerating through non-gravitational means, and potentially about to prove it can maneuver without mass ejection. That's 10 anomalies. 10 separate ways Atlas breaks the rules. Whatever the truth turns out to be, Atlas has already changed astronomy forever. December is going to be absolutely historic one way or another. Make sure you're paying attention because we're witnessing something extraordinary unfold. This is the kind of moment people will talk about for generations. The Atlas saga continues, and the next chapter is about to be written.